Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to AIM Impact on Your Health. AIM Impact on Your Health, where every day our goal is to have you learn at least one thing to help you live better and longer. AIM Impact on Your Health is heard each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney, and I'm with you each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. AIM Impact on Your Health, for each day you'll find current medical news, knowledgeable guests, fascinating health topics, and of course, where we do encourage you to call in to join in. Today, well, it is the last day of the year 2014. It is a salute to that year and a welcoming in of the new. We'll be with you on Friday, live show on Friday. But as we normally like to do in these last two show days in the month of December, we do a year in review. We go back and we talk about the guests that had the most impact on our shows, brought the strongest messages, had the most interesting presentations, and we just relived the event in brief, giving you an idea of exactly where you can go to the archives by date, by time, in order to be able to listen to the show as we originally did it. Now, the other day, on Monday, we started with January 2014, and we worked our way all the way up to the first 6 months to June. Today, our intention is to take it from July and bring it right on into home in December as we are, well, parting ways at the year 2014 by the end of this evening. By the way, wishing you all a great holiday. If I don't get a chance to mention it once again, you can also come on in here if you see it and weigh in at any time. The number to do that is 412-825-6262. Maybe guests you enjoyed, ones you didn't. How about up-and-coming months and guests you'd like to see? I take that all into account when I'm scheduling. Sometimes scheduling just happenstance, and other times it's very formal. So if you have an idea, either with previous guests or future ones, you can give us a call today at 412-825-6262. By the way, we'll get at part 2 of 2014 right after the first break. Let's get a couple festivities out of the way. Of course, we love to talk about our schedule, and as it stands right now, when we return, and we will be doing a live show on Friday, it is in preparation for the TLS program that's coming up in the month of January. TLS stands for Transition Lifestyle Systems, and it was put together by a little gal, Patty Szymanski, who had done a great job with our previous group. 10 weeks this program lasts, meets every Saturday. The first round of these began way back in September 27th, actually, of 2014. And clients, however you say it, participants met, the better way. Participants met once a week, every Saturday for 10 weeks. And usually there were two kinds of individuals involved. One who were just looking to lose weight and couldn't seem to pull it off. And two, those who didn't have much of a weight issue, but certainly did have trouble with carbohydrates and blood sugar, probably weighing in inappropriately with a lab test that we do frequently here called hemoglobin A1C. Anyway, the 10 weeks went well. It just finished here right at the beginning of December, and we did a show where, in fact, I'll encourage you to re-listen to the show. It's a show we did, and it was on the 10th, December 10th, for those who would like to hear how the participants of the previous TLS group felt about the program. Head on to the website, djcmd.com. click on the archive or the icon marked Archives and dial up, scroll to December 10th. I'm sure you'll enjoy the show. Now, for those of you that might be thinking about turning over a new leaf, New Year's resolutions and all that, if you're interested, we're going to have a meet, greet, and treat program on Saturday, 10 o'clock at the South Point Chiropractic office, right at the I-79 exit at South Point. And we're going to be there at 10 o'clock, spend about an hour and a half, like to meet you, have a chance for you to discuss your issues with Patty, myself, and Dr. Tyson Swagger, and see if this program might be of benefit to you. The actual start of the program is the following Saturday. That's going to be January 10th, and it will meet every week for 10 weeks, allowing those who are participating for whatever reason to achieve their goals, and we wish them great success. So if you have an interest, give us a call to let us know you're coming. Dial us up at 724-942-3002. We'll love to know that you're coming, and we'll leave the light on for you, even though it's 10 o'clock in the morning, and see if we can encourage you. And by the way, it'll be the first Beresha tasting of the new year. So we're going to have our Beresha products for you to sample. That alone might be worth coming out. But if you're going to participate, you probably need a go-to drink anyway, and none finer than this one. So is Patty Szymanski is fully on board with the Beresha line. All right. So our Friday show is going to be a little bit of a rehash of the TLS program with Patty coming aboard, giving you an opportunity to call in and check in, and asking you if you think this kind of program might benefit you in 2015. Now, on the 5th, Monday, Susie Weiss is going to be with us. She's going to be our guest on the show because she'll be in the office doing what she does best, which is to describe Young Living and the use of essential oils. She does it better than most, and she's been doing it now for over a year, coming to my office each and every month. This month, or the up-and-coming month, she'll be here on Thursday, January 8th at 10 o'clock in the morning, spending about an hour to two with those who have an interest in learning more about essential oils and how they may be helpful in their own health issues. And if you'd like to be a part of that free seminar, as I say, this particular one will be at 10 o'clock in the morning. Give us a call also at 724-942-3002 so we can reserve a spot for you. That is Susie Weiss, our guest on Monday the 5th, but the seminar in the office on Thursday the 8th, that'll be at 10 o'clock. On the 7th, our Wednesday show will be with none other than, it's the first Wednesday of the month, who do you expect? Dr. Boom herself will be here to wish you great greetings for the new year of 2015. She always has something fantastic planned. Now, speaking of planning, I'm planning in that week on Friday the 9th. Unbeknownst to you, I'll be on Friday afternoon recording a second show with Dr. Ty Vincent. He's the doctor literally who had the baton passed to him in this therapy that's going to take very interesting proportions and shape in 2015 called LDA. We've been doing low-dose antigen. Now we refer to it as LDI for low-dose immunotherapy, which is really what LDA is all about. So Ty Vincent at the helm has brought in some wonderful possibilities, and in particular in those dealing with autoimmune diseases, and at the top of the list is Lyme's disease. So we're going to be spending our show with him. I'm going to record it on the 9th. I'm going to play it for you. It won't be a live show. It'll be our tape show. It just has to be that way. He's going to be either in Wasilla, Alaska, or on the Kona coast of Hawaii. Either of those are way out of our time zone, and we'll have the show and we'll play it for you on the 12th. If you have Lyme's or any chronic disease where no one seems to be able to explain it or for sure correct it, probably want to stay tuned to hear Dr. Ty Vincent talk about this. LDA, now known as LDI, and autoimmune disease, We'll play that show on the 12th for your enjoyment. Now, other things shaping up in the month of January. We are just completing on our program for today, and a new one in January, the first one in 2015, for those who are afflicted with eye diseases, serious eye diseases, ones that really don't have a correction available in the conventional medical realm. I'm talking really about retinal diseases like glaucoma, macular degeneration, diabetic retinopathy. We have, as you would well know by now, an interesting 3-day treatment program to get these diseases turned around and to begin to restore your vision. The first one to be offered in January of 2015 will be the 19th, 20th, and 21st of January. That'll be our 3-day. For those of you out there that may think they could have an interest, but are not really sure of how the program may work for them, we're going to have a free eye seminar here in my office. It's going to be held on Monday, January 5th at 5:30 in the late afternoon. For those who want to come and have a chance to hear an explanation of a 3-day treatment program, and then have a chance to ask questions so that they may be able to determine if this is the right program for them. I say absolutely. There is no other program that the conventional medical community offers. We've been doing these now for a year and a half, and been getting wonderful results in doing them. And so we'll have an opportunity to explain this program for your interest and answer your questions on Monday, January 5th, 5:30 in the afternoon. Once again, give us a call to let us know you're coming by dialing us up at the office here, 724-942-3002. Okay, that looks like that rounds out the discussion of the up-and-comings. Why don't we do this? Let's take a short break. And when we return, you may want to have a pencil and paper ready. When I come up with a show, I'm going to give you the date. It'll easily allow you to scroll through the archives to come up with a show if you think you'd like to hear it, maybe for the second time, maybe for the first. Anyway, we're a year-end review, part 2, on our return. Be right back in a moment. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AIM Impact on Your Health. Heard here in KHB 620 each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney today on a Wednesday version of our show, and slightly different in a way, but very typical in other ways, because each and every year, these last 2 shows after Christmas, we always do a year in review where we talk about the highlights of what we presented you throughout the entire year of 2014. On Monday, we spent time rounding out the first 6 months of 2014. We started in January and worked our way up to June of this current year. Today, we take on the second half of the year, beginning in July and working our way all the way up to December, literally last week's shows. As I move through the month, I look for interesting guests, interesting topics, a great response from you that may be a little sidelight that maybe didn't even come up during the year, giving you the opportunity to maybe check mark that thing that you say, you know what, maybe I heard the show before, or you know what, I haven't ever heard it, but I want to hear it live, and or at least the recording of it live. That's what our archives are all about. I intend to give you the date and the guest today. So if you are listening and you go, I think I'm interested in that show, you go to my website at djcmd.com, and on the opening page, click on the icon marked Archives. It'll take you right to YouTube, and you can begin to scroll backwards from today as far back as you need to find the show of choice. You can also pump it into the search engine. It comes up a little easier. Either way, hope you enjoy having the opportunity to either re-listen to or listen for the first time shows that we're going to highlight today. Now, here we are now in July 2014. We're coming off a wonderful conference held in Phoenix, Arizona called Top Docs. And we were still bringing you the top doc guests that had promised that they would come on the radio show when I was out there visiting with them as one of the top docs in the Phoenix, Arizona program that we held. So, looking at the year now, on the 7th of July, we had not a top doc, but a local doc, one that I know very well and have known for a number of years. His name is Dr. James Barber. He's actually a plastic surgeon from the Western Pennsylvania area. Anyway, he was promoting, and still does, an interesting lab test. It was genomic testing for cancer screening. And the intention was to give people who might be concerned about cancers that run in their family, that they know about, what would be their predilection to developing a similar disorder, a similar type of cancer. Because that is genomically possible now to determine. So that test was described back on July 7th show. If you think you have an interest in this kind of topic, we still do have the test kits here. It just requires a buccal swab. That means to take a little scraping off the inside of the cheek and send it off for analysis. And from that point, they, I don't know, I think there were some 50 or 60 different disorders that you could be sized up for through genomic testing. If it's appealing to you, go back and listen to the show and come on in so we can talk about it. Then, on the 9th of July, one of the top docs for sure, a very unique doctor, very tall in stature, cast a big shadow, but a very mild and gentle man. His name is Dr. Charles Schwengel, and he is a cancer treatment specialist who deals nothing but non-toxic approaches to the treatment of cancer, and is heavily invested in the emotional component, which he made a pretty strong case for as being a part of every single patient with cancer. There is an emotional component that led to the cancer. His belief, and he went into great detail on why he felt that it was much more than just a belief, that it was scientifically accurate, is that it's because of these emotional burdens that people undergo that makes them vulnerable to specific kinds of cancer. Now, he claimed, and I have had a couple of patients actually take him up on it, that he could, over the phone, be able to determine what that emotional component was and be able to help those here in Western Pennsylvania through the airways and through some computer program that he has, and I'm not going to try to describe it, but he felt very strong about it, and patients who have taken him up on that offer felt very strong that he was helpful to them. His name is Dr. Charles Schwengel. He's one of the top 20 docs in the country, and he was our guest on July 9th 2014, talking about the emotional component in cancer and therapy on how to reverse that emotional component. There you have it. Okay. The very following Monday, that would be July 14th, another top doc, Gray Star Presence. His name is Dr. Nicholas Meyer. He is a biological dentist. His practice is in Phoenix, Arizona, and he spent some time talking to us about the components of biological dentistry. And I think it's a worthwhile show for those of you who are interested in determining whether your dentist qualifies. You have to have a little more going for you than just the desire to want to help. I'm sure your dentist feels very strongly about helping you in your oral issues, but in doing so may actually put you in harm, especially if you are vulnerable to the toxicities of many of the things that get done. So if you have root canal teeth, that is an absolutely potential problem source of a problem. If you have previously extracted teeth, which can lead to the formation of something called a cavitation. And by the way, that word cavitation, it was invented by Dr. Hal Huggins, does not appear in any dental book that's published for use of the dental students in our country. And if you use the word cavitation with your doctor or your dentist, he probably won't know what you're talking about. Anyway, cavitations and root canals are big problems for your general health, and it all begins with the inappropriate use of either of those two dental interventions, and really needs to be resolved and rectified by a biological dentist only. Dr. Nicholas Meyer is our guest on July 14th. Now, one more top doc, Gray Star Presence in July of 2014. Actually, it was his second visit. He'd already been with us the previous month, and he did such a bang-up job. We brought him back to have him expand upon cancer treatment. His name is Dr. Lee Cowden, and he, too, was talking about cancer with respect to detoxification and the fact that toxicities have to be corrected during a cancer treatment program. And he, too, also talked about the emotional component found in all cancers. So it was a double whammy that month. Dr. Charles Schwengel early in the month, and then Dr. Lee Cowden later in the month. These two of the top 20 docs in the country pretty much convinced me that emotional component is weighing heavily in cancers especially, but really in all serious diseases. I refer you to Dr. Lee Cowden's show with us on the 23rd of July, and I hope you enjoy it, along with Dr. Schwengel on the 9th, and let the emotional issue weigh in for the potential harm that it can cause. Okay, we flipped the page. We are now in August of 2014, and we'll get down into it in a moment, and this is when we met. And I'll just mention his name before I take this caller. This is when we met a good friend of ours, a brilliant doctor. His name is Dr. Jerry Tennant, and healing his voltage, and I'll be right back in a moment to talk about the show we did with him. We do have a caller right now. Why don't you come on to the store? Hello, and welcome aboard. What's on your mind?
Hi, Dr. Courtney.
Hi.
Happy New Year.
Same to you.
You were speaking of that biological dentist.
Dr. Nicholas Meyer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the cancer meeting group, I believe that Boyd Haley was supposed to come, but his airplane got devised.
Yeah, that's right.
There.
Yeah, he was supposed to come. We had him on the show, and then the day he was supposed to come, he had some sort of a connection issue. He never did get out of town. They ended up having to cancel him.
I just wanted to know if by chance anybody is trying to reschedule him, because he would be really a good speaker.
Well, the person that will be rescheduling, and I don't know where she left it off, of course, is our girl Sylvia Provenza, and she does all the scheduling. She knows Boyd Haley personally. I don't know why they just gave it up for the 2014 group.
Well, I'm sure he's pretty busy with his.
Well, but he loves, and then, he comes to the East Coast. He hails from the East Coast. He was at the University of Kentucky, So it's not like some of these doctors are West Coast and even beyond. So I'm going to have a feeling that he'll be available. I'll mention it. And by the way, she listened to the show, so maybe she can take that little recommendation to heart. He's so knowledgeable with mercury toxicity. That's his biggest claim to fame. He did the research. He's dangerous to the conventional medical community because as a scientist, he's got all the facts, and you can't sully him because the man did the research, he did the work, and he's a force to be reckoned with that very oftentimes leave those other doctors who try to go up against him feeling pretty hollow. But I agree, wonderful guest.
Does he still practice, or he's teaching mostly?
Of course, he's not a dentist.
Oh, okay.
He's a PhD chemist, and he was the head, no longer, but he was the head of the inorganic chemistry division at the University of Kentucky. He was in that spot all the way up to about a year to a year and a half ago, where he left. I think he just resigned. I think the school got so much heat because wherever Boyd Haley was, there were people trying to knock him down, and departments don't like that kind of attention. So it was a dicey little relationship there he had with the university. I think he still lives in the vicinity of the university, but I don't think he's teaching right now.
Okay, and he doesn't believe in root canals either.
Oh, goodness, no.
Okay.
Oh, he does not.
One more comment. We were talking about the Tennant. He would also be a really good guest for the Butler Meeting Group.
Jerry Tennant,
yeah,
who has become a very close friend of mine, would be an excellent guest.
Room only.
And yeah, I think he'd pack him, and would have to get a different venue. We just couldn't get him in the same room. But who knows? I mean, Jerry is he's near Dallas, Texas, and he sometimes works his way east. I know him well enough. If I know he's in the area, he wouldn't mind necessarily. We could work it out. I tell you what, let me get to work at it for 2015. I think you would be so right that the room would be filled, and all would enjoy healing his voltage. We'll talk about it in just a minute.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely. Have a great holiday. There you have it. Jerry Tennant. The name Jerry Tennant conjures up great images because this gentleman had first of all, an illustrious career as a world-renowned ophthalmologist. In fact, he did some of the first lens implantations for people with cataracts. In fact, I understand by Dr. Ed Condrat that there's a lens still called the Tennant lens, and he learned to insert that lens when he was in the training mode, and still, they tell me, is in use today. So Dr. Tennant traveled the world to do these special eye procedures as an ophthalmologist. He unfortunately was stricken. He remembers the patient. He remembers the case. While using lasers to help zap tissues in the eye, said that they literally cause viruses to get up underneath his mask and invade his central nervous system, and really left him in a devastated way with a condition of an inflammation of the brain itself. And the gentleman was bedridden, said he was in bed for 6 years. Just can you imagine? 6 years. He said he couldn't do hardly anything else than maybe generate an hour or two of lucidity where he could read a newspaper, and he was exhausted from it and had to go back to bed again. So encephalitis was the culprit that did him in, and as he sat in those 2 hours of lucidity, he described the fact that he realized that he better figure out a way to help himself, because there was nobody that was going to be able to help him if he didn't figure it out on his own. Just so happens the man was so brilliant, he went and he figured it out. And he figured it out based on the model of electricity and pH that evolved into what we now call healing as voltage. And he revealed the whole doggone affair with the disease and how he recuperated from it with a show that we did on August 18th when Jerry Tennant was nice enough to come aboard and spend a show with us. I refer you to the show of August 18th to learn from Jerry Tennant and as he speaks. I know the people who heard the show. It's a very widely re-requested show. His message really resonated extremely well with all that listened to him. Dr. Jerry Tennant, one of the top docs. Man, he's top doc, the universe, not just the U.S., but Tennant was our guest on August 18th. Hope you enjoyed the show. Gonna knock on the door. Why don't you come on this door? Hello, welcome aboard. Go right ahead.
Hi, Dr. Courtney.
Hi.
I heard a speaker recently, and he was just so fantastic. I thought maybe you might like to know of him, or maybe you have heard of him. His name is Dr. Datis, D-A-T-I-S, Karazian.
Whoa, I don't know the gentleman.
And he has two books that he's written. One is Why Do I Still Have Thyroid Symptoms When My Lab Tests Are Normal?
Well, that's got a ring to it.
The second one, which I happen to have out from the library and have just started to read, is Why Isn't My Brain Working?
Son of a gun. Now, seems like we're like-minded in this, that whole thing about why does my thyroid work without lab testing. Boy, we do parallel our philosophies on not using lab tests. I'm unfamiliar with the gentleman, and does that spell with a K or a C?
The last name is Kharrarrazian.
Whoa, K-H-R-R. I had to ask you. That's good that you spelled Kharrarrazian. Okay.
I-A-Z-I-N.
I-A. Oh, goodness.
He gave one of the most fantastic explanations of gut problems related to the brain, but also had wonderful tips on how to correct them with like self-help techniques.
Did you hear him live, or you heard him on the internet, or how'd you hear him?
It was like a summit.
Uh-huh.
And I think it was an autoimmune summit, and he was one of the lineup of speakers that you could listen to for like a 24-hour period, so it was, I listened to the recording, but the interviewer was, asking them questions and things like that, much like you do with your show.
Well, I'm going to go run this down. I normally do when I'm given a good hot lead, and I think this is hot as they come. Are you talking about the Cancer Summit series? Because I'm familiar.
No, this was an autoimmune.
Autoimmune. All right. Well, I'll go run it down, and I'll find the gentleman, and he should be our guest somewhere in 2015.
That's great. The other thing, I wondered if next time you have contact with Dr. or Shannon Gosen, if you could ask her, I have a friend of mine whose daughter has suffered terribly with trigeminal neuralgia and has had at least 3 pretty invasive surgeries to try to correct this. And ask her, is there a frequency for that?
I will be definitely asking her. In fact, we just spoke on the phone the other night. We have yet to have our January date. In other words, she comes once a month on the show. And by the way, she'll be coming up right at the beginning of February to Pittsburgh to meet all the patients that I have to be treating at the time with FSM, and maybe have a seminar or two for the general public. More on that. I'm just giving you a little preview because Shannon has she knows Pittsburgh well, and she's going to be resuming her contact with Pittsburgh in a much more formal way. I'll reveal it to you as time goes on, and I'll ask her about the trigeminal neuralgia.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your call. Quite informative. There you go. You see how it works first? I wrote down Karazian. Oh, what a collection of letters. Anyway, we turn the page now. We move from August to September of 2014. And the month of September, a couple interesting guests that we had. Number one, of course, we had Patricia Lemmer, a local clinician who works with children with autism, ADD, ADHD, and the like. She had just written a book called Outsmarting Autism, and she held a seminar at Phipps Conservatory that she invited me to, and I did attend, where we had a chance to discuss the whole issue of vaccines. I'm a little starred next to her name because she's recently contacted me by email. She is a local talent, and I'm going to bring her back on the show in 2015. The issue of vaccines is as hot now as it ever has been, and we'll let Patricia Lemmer talk about it with respect to autism and the autistic spectrum. Now, for those of you who had an interest with Dr. Tennant, remember he came aboard in August. That was August, I think I said 18th. I'm just checking. Yeah, August 18th. But he returned. He did 2 shows with us. The one on the 18th of August was part 1 of Healing His Voltage. There had to be a part 2. And part 2 took place on the 15th of September. So those of you who enjoyed Dr. Tennant should enjoy re-listening to the 2 Dr. Tennant shows. Well, the fact that I was just elated that he spent time with us, and he really enjoyed Pittsburgh, and he enjoyed being on the show, and he's really become a close friend, and I will try to use my influence to see if we can get Jerry to come to town if he's already going to be moving throughout the area, and he normally does. He sort of circles the United States, and for that matter, the globe, providing people with these seminars on the Healing His Voltage concept. Dr. Tennant's second show, part 2, was September 15th, 2014. Okay. One other show that month, I think that it would be interesting for you to recheck, was a show I did. And it was done on September 26th. And I referred to the show as Sensible Supplementation. And it was one opportunity. I usually take one opportunity a year to talk about supplements and how I deal with supplements in my office with the various patients that I see. I revealed, and I think probably not for the first time, that for years I could not really recommend a brand name supplement that I would put my reputation behind. And so I had to answer the question, which was frequently asked in my office. Namely, the question was, what do I take? And could you please advise me on what to take? My answer to that was a rather lengthy 6-parter. There were 6 different categories of supplements that everybody needs to have in their basic supplemental program, and I didn't use any brand names with any of the 6. What changed, however, in the last few years is that brands emerged that I could put my reputation behind. Just to throw them out to you today, the combination of 3 supplements turn out to, I believe, do the job completely and make it sensible and economically doable. They are a algae component called F3, made by BioAge, at bioage.com. Number 2 are the fats, 4-to-1 ratio, Body Bio's 4-to-1 oil. And then finally, the antioxidant, the go-to antioxidant of choice, called astaxanthin, which has become a real star only since April of 2013. My embarrassment was I hadn't even heard of that particular supplement called astaxanthin up until that time. So anyway, that in a nutshell is what I'll describe to you at length if you head to the show on September 26, 2014 to talk about sensible supplementation, and hope you enjoy it. Okay, let's take a short break. When we come back, we're going to finish it up with the last 3 months of part 2 of 2014. We're going to be talking about October and things that happened in October. On our return, be right back in just a moment. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AIM Impact on Your Health. Heard here in KHB 620 each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. We are in a year in review mode. We're going over the shows that I presented to you over the course of the 2014. Of course, we meet 3 times a week, and in the course of the month, some interesting names have come up. Some interesting concepts were brought to us. We really enjoyed them. I'm giving you an opportunity today to sort of revisit those that I think had a powerful message, a strong way of delivering it in this year-end review model where I give you the date so you can go back and listen to the show as it was originally broadcast by just heading to the archives and scrolling to the date in question. Now, in October 2014, the month was really an enlightenment month. It all started out by a conference that I went to. It was held in St. Petersburg, Florida. The conference was on microcurrent. And I think I've revealed to you already that microcurrent has been a big player in the treatment of eye diseases as Dr. Edward Conrad put these programs together. Microcurrent was placed as a treatment that just had to be used during those 3-day treatment programs. I believe, by the way, that the results, and we get improvement, restoration, beginning of the restoration of vision, substantial return of vision in 3 days, in large part, if not mostly due to the use of these microcurrent machines. So over the course of many years, I became very comfortable observing how well patients did using microcurrent. And then when I started to do the programs myself in the office, and personally was involved with administering them, microcurrent became that much. I became that much more convinced that microcurrent was really one of the champion components of the 3-day treatment program. My almost embarrassment was while I was working with the use of microcurrent because I was influenced by Dr. Conrad and dealt with patients with eye issues. There are other people in this country who were dealing with microcurrent for every other thing other than eye issues. And so there they were, all at the same place, at the same time. I had a chance to meet every one of them who worked countrywide and as a pioneer in their own right by using microcurrent to treat a whole host of issues, none of which worked to treat people with eye disease. That was an Ed Conrad special. That was Dr. Ed's claim to fame. But the revelation that there is the ability to get tremendous benefit to other issues with respect to the body and how it can be in dysfunction, that was the big message that came to me in the beginning of October. And that's when we started and continue this very day, these visits that we have once a month with Ms. Shannon Gosen. The first time that she took to our airways, after many year absence, I knew Shannon in the early 1990s. She had continued to develop as a clinician over these many years. Anyway, she shared a lot of that with us on the 20th of October, as we'll call that FSM, frequency specific microcurrent #1. And of course, she'll be back in January. We just haven't set the date yet, but we plan on doing it probably this week, and I'll let you know when. So Shannon Gosen is my go-to person with respect to all other things other than the eye. I continue to be the go-to person when it comes to eye issues. It's working out very well. We give and we share and we take and we pay back. Anyway, that was the guest in October that I thought I'd bring to your attention. And pretty much as I could talk about microcurrent, it is a subject that just goes through the entire month of October. I did a report on microcurrent. That was October 6th. We did the show with Shannon. We repeated the shows. I got very into the whole concept of microcurrent, even till this very day. And you'll see that as 2015 unfolds. Okay, we make it to November. And in November, a gentleman coming up here is a very interesting, well, he's not really a clinician, but he's a farmer. And he raises a special product, a really special product, only to be able to be grown in the wild in the country called Costa Rica. The gentleman I'm talking about is named Lloyd Standish, and he was my guest on the radio show of November the 10th when he introduced us to a remarkable substance, a fruit called corao. By the way, corao is spelled C-A-R-A-O. Anyway, this is a tropical fruit that only grows on the western coast. Get a load of this now. Costa Rica, as small as it is, has an east coast and a west coast. We have an east coast and a west coast separated by 3,000 miles. They have an east coast and the west coast, I don't know, maybe separated by 40 miles? Maybe a little more. I'm not really accurate on that one. Don't hold me to it. Anyway, on the west coast, because of the climate there, a tree grows wild. There are no groves of corao trees. Anyway, they have a great medicinal component and benefit. And corao is something that we carry in our offices this very day, helping to correct blood dyscrasias, in particular anything that causes anemia or a diminishing of red and white blood cells. The testimonials which were brought to our presence on the presentation, because Lloyd Standish was the guest at the Freedom of Choice in Cancer Therapy group that was held on the 13th of November. He was here in Pittsburgh, but he did my show on the 10th of November just before hopping on an airplane to come on up here. Anyway, I found the topic to be fascinating. I found that the testimonials described by people, the majority of which who had cancer and had their blood issues develop because of the strength and the devastation of chemotherapy. And it was this fruit that got them over the hump so that they could survive. Many people succumb to the side effects of chemotherapy and become devastated by it and never really recover. Corao did a great job in the cases that were presented that evening and the testimonials given by those who were in attendance. So I pass it on to you. I thought it was a wonderful find. We do carry the substance to this very day, so if you know anybody who's having devastating anemias and other blood dyscrasias developed, more than likely due to chemotherapy for sure, get a hold of us to come on so we can talk about it. Corao, the date of the show, November 10th, 2014. Lloyd Standish was our guest. Should mention, as is the case since the previous month, Shannon Gosen was our guest, and she was here on the 17th of November talking about FSM. Once again, that of course is frequency specific microcurrent. All right, now we get into December. This is the hot month. This is the month we find ourselves in today for one more day. And interesting guest comes to our show in this month. And of course, I've already mentioned him once before. I mention him again because he's the new godfather of LDA. Now that he's involved, we call it LDI. LDA stood for low dose antigen. LDI stands for low dose immunotherapy, which is always what we were doing anyway. It's just with the new change in letters comes a new force of energy that is providing us information on how best to approach these complex issues. Of course, I'm talking about Dr. Ty Vincent, an interesting physician who hails from Wasilla, Alaska, where that very famous lady also is from. And remember, I tell you, he doesn't know Sarah Palin. I asked him specifically about it. But he came to us on a show. It was a pre-recorded show on the, let's see, it was December the 8th. And so it is LDI Part 1 with Ty Vincent. And we're going to have him back as our guest in January on the 12th. But you want to hear this first show that we did talking about the use of LDA essentially for two kinds of problems. The first problem we'll refer to as classical allergy. And I think the three sources of allergic response that provides us with some pretty miserable existences in terms of the symptoms that people have to confront are the inhaled allergens, the food allergens, and then finally chemical allergens. These three categories of of substances that we can be allergic to create, as I say, some devastating symptoms that make life miserable for many. Doesn't really terminate life, but makes it miserable as long as you're here. Anyway, to find out that allergists can only deal with inhaled allergens, that was a revelation to me. I didn't realize that an allergist is hamstrung and can't really help if the problem happens to be either chemicals or foods. They can only help if the allergic response is to something that you inhale. And of course, they do a pretty good job of it too, because people get their symptoms corrected and they're able to have a life without such drastic interventions of the terrible symptoms that can develop, all the way from just runny noses to full-blown asthma. Problem is that you're never really fixed. You'll always need to have those weekly injections, and they are weekly. And so we learned that LDA can literally reverse these classical allergies to the point where you should not need to be treated for them ever again. Now, that is the way that the original godfather, his name is Dr. William Butch Schrader. Dr. Schrader's office is in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And he was a guest of ours way back here in November of 2012 when he was the only declared godfather of LDA. What's happened since then is that Ty Vincent has had the baton passed to him. He now represents the new impetus provided to us with using LDA. Now we call it LDI. It's immunotherapy all the way. And besides treating the classical allergies in a very similar way that Dr. Schrader was able to teach his 90 doctor disciples throughout the country, we now know that we can treat autoimmune diseases with the help of the new godfather. His name is Dr. Ty Vincent. And in particular, all of the autoimmune diseases are absolutely attackable and correctable now. But I mention one in particular because it really is tantamount to a lifetime of menacing symptoms that will make that person's life a miserable existence, and that's Lyme's disease. We here in Pennsylvania are the #2 in the country when it comes to developing Lyme's disease. It's that prevalent in our state. Unfortunately, if you don't catch Lyme's disease as a doctor, in literally the first couple of weeks, this thing moves from a microbial infection to an autoimmune disease, and that particular second component is one that the conventional docs never quite were able to contend with, and don't even know to this very day that Lyme's disease is both a microbial infection as well as a autoimmune disease. And Ty Vincent is solving this query very well with the use of mixtures that he's put together that should be able to, I think, help eradicate Lyme disease in our patients. So if you have Lyme's or know somebody with Lyme's, you may want to have them become familiar with Dr. Ty Vincent, and certainly start listening to this program and come on in to see us here 2015 is going to be a wonderful year, I believe, for those afflicted with Lyme's. We literally start out of the chute, ready to go with treating those Lyme's patients right after return from our break of New Year's Day. So looking forward to tell you much more about it as the year moves on. The last show of noteworthiness, and I mentioned it because it is extremely noteworthy, and that's the show we did with Dr. Edward Kondrot on the 17th of December. The show, entitled The Watergate of Eye Care, really revealed a conventional scam. I think it's fair to say that Dr. Kondrot, as an ophthalmologist, has taken it personal that his profession has allowed themselves to scam the public because of the use of something called the injections of the people with macular degeneration. Wet macular degeneration get injections into the back of the eye. I know it sounds terrible, but they do. And they lead the public to believe that this is a great health benefit to them, when in fact it is anything but. And rather than get into the guts of it all, I would say you want to re-listen to the show where you learn that those injections probably should never be done, or if ever to be done, only after an attempt to have conservative treatment step in and more than likely reverse the need for the injection at all. So, there you have it, folks. Year 2014 in review. It was a pleasure to be able to bring you the shows. I look forward to doing the same thing for 2015. It's my pledge to try to be as on top of this as I can for your benefit. I want you to have a wonderful celebration of the New Year Day tomorrow, and be ready to have at it when we flip the page to January 2nd, when we return on Friday, talking about TLS. So until then, I want to wish you all a happy holiday, and I'll see you in the new year. So long. Bye now.